So, camels. Everyone's favorite desert-dwelling creature, which has naturally led to a wide variety of rather famous camels. Whether it's Camel, the Minecraft camel, the Hump Day camel, or Joe Camel, whose sole reason for existence was to encourage cancer, camels have had an interesting impact on pop culture. Unless you're Camel the Camel, then in that case, the world has yet to know your name, my friend. Though possibly the most interesting camel, purely due to the absolute absurdity of his story, has to be Old Douglas, the Confederate camel. Alright, so first things first. What is a camel doing in American military service during the mid-19th century? Well, to answer that question, we have to rewind back to the 1830s when westward expansion began to meet the inhospitable terrains of western North America. So what's a military which plans to establish a presence in such an area to do in this situation? Well, import a bunch of camels, of course, said Lieutenant George Crossman, and to be completely honest, it wasn't nearly as stupid of an idea as it sounds. Comparing them to horses, camels can carry more, require less food and water, don't require shoeing, and all around are just much more capable of surviving in extreme environments. Though apparently the War Department didn't see as much potential in the idea as Crossman or his buddies, as they threw it away pretty much as soon as it arrived on their desks. Though by no means did this stop Crossman, as he once again proposed his camel idea to the War Department in 1847. This time, the idea was taken much more seriously due to the issues which Crossman's idea planned to solve being the same exact issues which the War Department was actively facing in the Mexican War. Although it did catch the attention of the War Department, the person which became enthralled with the idea was Mississippi Senator and Chairman of the Senate Committee on Military Affairs, Jefferson Davis, who just so happened to be appointed Secretary of War under the Pierce administration in 1853. So with his new position, Crossman's idea, and $30,000 from Congress, Davis got to work importing around 75 camels to Texas in order to found the United States Camel Corps by 1856. And over the next few years, the Camel Corps would thrive at what became known as Camp Verde, located some 60 miles northwest of San Antonio, and would even be sent on a couple missions out west. Yellow. Yeah, I clicked on this video to learn about a rebel camel, not about some weird army experiment. Shut up. February 1861. In anticipation of Texas's imminent secession from the Union, rebel troops seized Camp Verde and all the camels. Well, not all of them. Some camels had been moved out to California, but the Union didn't really have a use for them and later sold them off in 1866. And apparently the Confederates also didn't see much of a purpose for them, despite Jefferson Davis being appointed as the Confederate president, as they began selling most of them off, with the remaining camels being deliberately murdered by the Confederate troops because they didn't like them. What kind of an excuse is that? Though, on a positive note, some camels did escape their traitorous owners, leading to feral camel sightings throughout the Southwest till at least the 1940s. Cool, neat story, but where does Old Douglas come into play here, and how did he come to join the Confederate Army? Well, my friends, that's where I and just about every other historian throws up their hands in defeat and goes, ew. All we know is that he was a former member of the Camel Corps who was gifted the William H. Moore, the colonel of the 43rd Mississippi, sometime before the Battle of Iuka in September of 1862. And with Moore's death later that year at the Second Battle of Corinth, Old Douglas just kind of continued to hang around with the regiment. And to be honest, this worked out pretty good for the 43rd Mississippi, as he had become kind of a mascot for the regiment, with the nickname the Camel Regiment eventually being bestowed upon them. Over the next few months, Old Douglas continued to integrate himself into the Confederate Army until June 27, 1864, when during the siege of Vicksburg, he wandered away from the 43rd Mississippi and into no man's land when a Union sharpshooter killed Old Douglas. Now, who exactly was this sharpshooter, you might ask? I don't know, but the Confederates found out and crippled him as an act of revenge. Oh then, that got dark fast. Wait, what exactly happened to Old Douglas after his untimely demise? Well, his comrades in arms ate him, of course. Like, seriously, they just went, oh man, Cletus, that dude look mighty tasty. More tasty than that pesky hardtack, I tell you what. Oh my god, what even is this story anymore? So, at the end of the day, the Union took Vicksburg only a week after Douglas's death. The Confederates were traitors in more ways than one, and Douglas got buried in Cedar Hill Cemetery in Vicksburg. So, with all that being said, the moral of the story is screw having a nuanced argument. I just wanted to talk about funny Southern Camel. Take that, college!